The beginning of 20th century, we were just 1.6 billion people. Now, 2019, we are 7.6 billion people. Now, they are saying by 2050 we will be 9.6 billion people. Why are we making these predictions? Why don't we have a plan? Why don't we say in the next 50 years we will be 4.5 billion people? Are we willing to address this? This is what needs to be addressed. It may look like there are many problems, but actually there's only one problem. We are nice, but we're just too many. This we need to understand. There is no space for any other creature to live on this planet simply because we are so many and our footprint is so big. So we are trying to reduce the size of our footprint, I understand that. But believe me, it is much easier to control human population than human aspirations. You cannot control human aspirations. You can easily control human population if everybody is focused on that. The nations, the religions of the world, various community leaders, everybody, if they are focused on seeing how to bring down the population of this planet, human population.
So in the session we just attended here at the Economic Forum, I think there was a sense of relief actually in your frankness. You brought up some issues that others are reluctant to bring up. That's my trouble.
Always. All the religious groups are against me because I'm talking about population. They want more souls, I want less on the planet.
Cannot hide away from human population growth because, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
दवाई भी और कड़ाई भी।
मोदी जी ने आपको 9 महीने के अंदर 2 वैक्सीन बना करके दी और 219 करोड़ डबल डोज बूस्टर साथ में लगा करके आपको सुरक्षा कवच पहना दिया।
It was a gigantic lie. Telling people lies.
You will see that the countries with the highest vaccination rate have right now the highest mortality rate.
The huge increase in all-cause mortality. Places like sub-Saharan Africa and India.
I will not inject poisonous substance into my body.
बताइए ये मोदी जी का टीका था ना, ये बीजेपी की वैक्सीन, ये मोदी की वैक्सीन।
अब ये वैक्सीन जो है बाहु पर लगती है और जब वैक्सीन बाहु पर लगती है तो आप बाहुबली बन जाते हैं।
The science on COVID on the lockdowns, on the mitigation measures, on a whole host of topics. If the public was listening, they would hear this idea that there was this univocal, sort of univocal conclusion that you had to do lockdowns, you had to wear masks, you had to socially distance, you had to put plastic barriers up, you had to close schools, you had to do all of these things, that the vaccines would stop transmission of the disease, that therefore it was warranted to force people to lose their jobs over them. All of these ideas were sold as if there was a scientific consensus in favor of them. That was a lie. There was never a scientific consensus on almost any of the topics, and as you say, en masse. In fact, the pre-existing narrative, the pre-existing idea among most scientists before the pandemic was quite the opposite direction. What happened was a relatively small group, a cartel almost, of very powerful scientific bureaucrats took over the whole apparatus of science, at least as far as the public eye was concerned, dominated the media, dominated the message to politicians, and as a result, we had a catastrophic response to COVID, and we're going to be paying the cost of that for a very long time.
लगवाई तो मेरी फिर आज तक आई साइट सही नहीं हो रही, आई ग्रेड से भी नहीं हो रही अब सही।
ये वैक्सीनेशन ने तो करोड़ों ये वैक्सीनेशन बहुत बड़ा घोटाला है। जरूरी था या नहीं था, और उसके बाद कितने लोगों को हार्ट अटैक से डेथ हुई, लाखों लोग मार दिए इन्होंने, करोड़ों लोग। जितने कोरोना से नहीं मरे उससे ज्यादा लोग कोरोना की वैक्सीनेशन के बाद हार्ट अटैक से मरे, और ऐसे मरे टप्पा टप वरमाला पहनाई और उधर ये हुआ है, वरमाला पहनाते वहीं मर गए, जबकि सारे कोई बीमारी नहीं थी, ना हार्ट में ब्लॉकेज है ना और कुछ। कोई स्विमिंग पूल से वापस नहीं लौटे, कोई दौड़ते दौड़ते मर गए, बच्चे क्रिकेट खेलते खेलते, खिलाड़ी, कोई पुलिस की कोई फौज की भर्ती में गया, वहीं दौड़ते दौड़ते वहीं मर गया। ये वैक्सीनेशन के बाद हार्ट अटैक, वैक्सीनेशन के बाद आंखें चली गई, वैक्सीनेशन के बाद लोगों के कान खराब हो गए, वैक्सीनेशन के बाद शुगर हो गई, वैक्सीनेशन के बाद पैरालिसिस हुआ है, वैक्सीनेशन के बाद सफेद दाग हुए हैं, वैक्सीनेशन के बाद लोगों को आर्थराइटिस हुआ है, और जिनके लिवर किडनी फेलियर और कैंसर था, कैंसर रिकरेंस हुआ है। जिनको मैंने लीवर किडनी ठीक कर दिया था वैक्सीनेशन करा के, फिर दोबारा खराब करा लिया है। ऐसे कितने उपद्रव हुए, तुमने तो थोड़ा ही उपद्रव देखा है।
स्वामी जी, मैं अभी जब अपना रूटीन चेकअप कराने गई तो मुझे थायराइड बता दिया। मुझे सिम्टम तो कुछ होते ही नहीं है और बीमारी बता देता है डॉक्टर। फिर बोल दिया, मैंने थायरोक्रिन खाई, 15 दिन में मेरा थायराइड सही हो गया।
अब वो कोई ना कोई प्रारब्ध आ जाते, पता नहीं थायराइड
स्वामी जी, दोनों बच्चों को मैंने वैक्सीन नहीं लगवाई, लेकिन हम पे प्रेशराइज्ड था कि आपकी सैलरी रोक दी जाएगी, वैक्सीन जरूर लगवाना पड़ा, इसलिए
वो मैंडेटरी कर दिया था। ऐसा बहुत बड़ा उपद्रव हुआ है। मैं इसके ऊपर ज्यादा नहीं बोलूंगा क्योंकि इसमें विवाद होने की बहुत संभावना है। क्या करूं? बोले बाबा जी आप भी विवादों से डरते, और मैं डरता नहीं, मेरे पीछे साफ भूत।
अब मोदी का वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर,
न्यू वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, अ न्यू वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, एक नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, एक नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, एक नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, न्यू वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर टू शेप द इमर्जिंग ऑर्डर, एक नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर। आज की दुनिया जिस वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर की तरफ जा रही है, जिन संभावनाओं को तलाश रही है, द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध के बाद दुनिया ने एक नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर आकार लिया था। मैं साफ साफ देख रहा हूं कि कोरोना के बाद एक नया विश्व ऑर्डर, एक नया ग्लोबल ऑर्डर, एक नया जियोपॉलिटिकल इक्वेशन, ये बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहा है।
Malaysia's former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said that the Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPPA is a new world order strategy by a powerful pact of people led by the US to dominate the world economy. Speaking at the international conference titled New World Order, Recipe for Peace or War, organized by the Perdana Global Peace Foundation, Dr. Mahathir said globalization and borderless trade are being used to establish a one-world government.
Basically, it is about having a world government. We should abolish all states, all nations, all borders, but instead have only one world government. And that world government is to be by certain people, elites, people who are very rich, very intelligent, very powerful in many ways. They are the ones who will govern the world. There was not much talk about democracy or choice of leaders. Instead, there was to be a government by these elites who will impose their rules on everyone in this world. And for those who are unwilling to submit to them, there will be punishment. And the peace that we will get from this is the peace of the graveyard, because the intention also is to reduce the number of people in this world. At the time when the New World Order was enunciated, the population of this world was only 3 billion. The intention was to reduce it to 1 billion. Now the population of the world is 7 billion. There will be a need to kill many billions of people, or to starve them to death, or to prevent them from giving birth, in order to reduce the population of this world.
और इसलिए एक विशेष परिस्थिति है, कोरोना की महामारी। पिछले साल किसी ने नाम भी नहीं सुना था। नवंबर से चाइना में ये शुरू हुआ, और मुझे याद है भारत का पहला पेशेंट 30 जनवरी को आया, लेकिन उसके पहले महीना भर मोदी जी हर कैबिनेट मीटिंग में ये बताते थे कि ये संकट गहरा है, सारे दुनिया में आ सकता है, हमें तैयारी करनी चाहिए, हमें सावधानी बरतनी चाहिए। हर कैबिनेट मीटिंग, और मुझे याद है भारत का पहला पेशेंट 30 जनवरी को आया, लेकिन उसके पहले महीना भर मोदी जी हर कैबिनेट मीटिंग में ये बताते थे कि ये संकट गहरा है, सारे दुनिया में आ सकता है, हमें तैयारी करनी चाहिए, हमें सावधानी बरतनी चाहिए।
Well, we've all heard of the bird flu, and we've heard of tuberculosis, and we've heard of flesh-eating diseases, and there's a number of things that have been going around in the media the last few years, including AIDS, which is still there. And now we have, even as strange as it sounds, we have a rise to almost an epidemic level now of rabies, which we typically associate with animals. But when it crosses to the human barrier, to the barrier between animal and human, crosses that barrier into the human, there is no treatment. There is no cure for rabies. You may not have heard this. This is not necessarily new, but it's coming to the forefront. In
you know what this makes me think of?
What's that?
This is zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely. And that is the context in which the mainstream media right now is placing it, is in the zombie apocalypse. Because that's exactly how people present themselves, if you will, speaking medically. But that's how they appear and how they behave is like a zombie, because of the effects of rabies on the nervous system. There were last year and even earlier this year, there were actually drills conducted by our government on the zombie apocalypse and how would first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, how would would they deal with these people? So it sounds far-fetched to the average person who hasn't heard this before, but this is nothing new. But let's go beyond the rabies. Let's talk about people getting a flu shot or getting a avian flu inoculation. There's another very insidious disease, if you will, which is really a man-made disease. It's a biological construct called MERS coronavirus out of the Middle East. It's the Middle East respiratory syndrome. It's made its way into Europe.